Hello, welcome back to iCourses.org. My name is Claude, and once again, I'll be your teacher. What we're talking about now are the purpose questions. Now, the purpose questions are usually going to be in the conversations that you're going to hear, the listening conversations. What they are going to be asking you to do is to define what the purpose of the conversation is about. Why is the student talking to the counselor? Why is the counselor mentioning this? It's usually a why question. What's the purpose? Now, these ones are a little bit tricky sometimes because usually in the listening, they will state specifically some sort of problem. And the purpose of the conversation is not always that problem because, as you know, when you're talking to people, they might say the problem, but there's usually an underlying reason for that problem. So we have a different situation. It could be something like this. The student comes into the office of the counselor, and the counselor says, "Hi Lisa, how are you doing today?" And she might say, "Well, I'm having trouble with my research paper." "Okay, what seems to be the trouble?" "Well, I just can't seem to get started." "Well, you know the paper is due at the end of the week." "Well, there are just so many topics to choose from." Okay, so there's a couple different things that she mentioned that could be the problem. First of all, the student says, "I'm having trouble with my research paper." Okay, maybe that's the answer, the purpose. She's having trouble. But the professor, not the counselor, the professor says, "Well, what seems to be the trouble?" Okay, so you might think that the answer is going to be directly after that. "I just can't seem to get started." Okay, that's probably not going to be the answer there, because you see from the conversation, the professor is digging a little deeper, as we say, to find the true meaning. He says, "You know the paper is due at the end of the week." All right, that's a problem too. And then the student says, "But there are so many different topics to choose from." Okay, so then we have some possible answers. The answer is, like number one, it says, the student doesn't have time to do the project. Number two, the student doesn't understand the project. Number three, the student doesn't know when the paper is due. And number four, the student can't choose a topic. Okay, so all of these reflect something that was talked about in the conversation. Number one, the student doesn't have time to do the project. Well, as you remember, the professor did say, "Well, you know the paper is due at the end of the week." That's kind of a problem, but that's not necessarily the purpose of why they're talking to each other. She didn't come to him because she's having a problem with that. Number two, the student doesn't understand the project. Well, over here, she does say something about, "I just can't seem to get started." Now, just can't seem, it can also, they're trying to fool you, meaning like it might sound like she's saying, "I just don't understand." But that's not exactly the correct meaning of that. Number three, the student doesn't know when the paper is due. Well, he says here, "You know the paper is due at the end of the week." Now here, in his tone of voice, he's kind of saying it as if he's checking to make sure that she actually knows that. He doesn't know for sure. Maybe she doesn't realize it's due at the end of the week. So he's checking. So that's, another way that they're trying to fool you there. And number four, the student can't seem to choose a topic. Okay, she doesn't say anywhere in here, "I can't choose a topic." She uses the word, "I just can't seem to get started." And he says, "You know the paper is due at the end of the week." And then finally she says, "There are so many topics. There's just so many topics." That ties into, "I can't seem to get started. I'm having trouble with my research paper." Okay, so with these purpose questions, the trick here, TOEFL is always trying to dig a little deeper. The answer is never the obvious one. What they're trying to do is measure your ability to understand the problem. There's always going to be some sort of digging a little deeper to find the problem, and the actual answer is probably not going to be specifically stated. Here she states a few different problems, but that's not the one. He gets down to this one. There are just so many topics. Okay, so number one, the student doesn't have time to do the project. That's not the one. She has time. There's still time left in the week. And she wouldn't be going to the counselor unless she realized that she had a problem. The student doesn't understand the project, well, that ties into the can't seem to get started. It doesn't have quite the same meaning, so you can eliminate that one. The student doesn't know when the paper is due. Well, the counselor kind of sounded like he was checking to find that out, but that's not the answer there either. And the student can't seem to choose a topic. Now, this is the implied meaning of the last thing when she says there's just so many topics. And as you've heard from the rest of the conversation, once they find out that problem, they go into helping her with the topics and things like that. So you'll hear more than just it relates to the whole conversation that you've heard. Usually, the purpose question is going to be at the very beginning of the conversation. Just be careful because it's not usually specifically stated, and it's not usually the first thing that they say. You have to dig a little deeper. But we have plenty of courses that will help you to figure these things out. Also, studying vocabulary will really help with this. And yeah, so just stop back to icourses.org. We have lots of great lessons that will help you out with this. But these are the purpose questions. Once again, my name is Claude, and have a great day.